Hello and welcome to Pub Football as we take you through the European Championships. Well, we take you through the England games anyway. They've done with their warm-up games now. Last game, a 1-0 win over Romania at the Riverside. A Marcus Rashford penalty, also captain for the day. Marcus Rashford captaining the three lions for the first time. And this morning, the player to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold has been announced as Ben White. I'm Miles, this is Jimmy. Shall we start just by looking back at the game in Middlesbrough?
Yeah, it was very underwhelming again, wasn't it? Really poor. Yeah.
I mean, it's just at the moment, it's hard to get a full gauge on it, isn't it? Because there's still, 5 or 6 first-team players missing. There were 3 players who at the time weren't even in the Euro squad started. And it just is all a bit crazy, these warm-up games.
Yes, I'm very worried. We're probably the only nation so far that hasn't played any type of first team yet in any of these friendlies. And on Sunday, we've got our hardest game of the lot, which is really concerning. And we don't know what formation we're going to be playing. We don't know who's going to be playing. Jack Grealish has given himself a real chance of getting in that starting 11, which I think he should be. And there's more questions than answers at the moment, which isn't good.
Surely playing 2 games with a back 4 means a back 4. I know a lot has been said about playing 3 at the back or a back 5. Surely the one thing that he could work on is the formation.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, we're still unsure if it is going to be 3 at the back against Croatia. I think it will be. I think we need that extra stability back there. But I prefer us to play 4. We've got more offensive players on the pitch. And yeah, it's just a bit all over the show. And obviously, I'm pleased for Ben White, which we'll come on to. But yeah, to have so many random players in the team who aren't going to be going to the Euros just didn't make any sense in my eyes.
Well, we'll look ahead more to the Croatia game later on in the week. But in terms of this performance, standout players for me, I thought Sam Johnson was very good in goal, an absolutely fantastic save, which is great on an England debut. I felt Ben White was strong. Wasn't convinced by Godfrey. Mings, I don't know. I'm concerned, and when we talk about the Croatia game, we'll mention whether he should be starting or not. I felt that James Ward-Prowse now very, very unlucky not to be in that side, which we'll get onto in a second. He had a very good game. Calvert-Lewin was fine, and I'm one of those people who reads player ratings after the game, and I go to a few different sources for them, so they're in most of the newspapers. I'll go through them. Marcus Rashford is a player who got mixed reviews. Some said he played well, some said he didn't. For me, yes, he scored the penalty. I felt he didn't take his chance and he actually underwhelmed.
Agreed. I think he's been out of form for probably the last sort of 7 or 8 United games leading into this. I thought he was poor in the Europa League final. And as you say, he's got his chance, captain, and he didn't deliver. I thought he was really poor. He kept giving the ball away. He didn't do a lot going forward. And he's very fortunate they can take a penalty. Because apart from that, he didn't do anything. It was the same across the board, really. A lot of players who had the chance to really give themselves a real opportunity to be in that first game. And no one really delivered apart from Grealish in my eyes.
What do you think of Sancho's performance?
Poor. Again, another one who had the chance to really, really stamp his mark on it. And was too laboured in possession. First half, I thought it was really, really slow tempo-wise, and it caused for a really, really poor game.
I thought Sancho was slightly more lively. He's a different type of player to Rashford. He's not the one who necessarily gets in behind, which I'd like him to do more often. But there was some nice touches when he hit the crossbar. It was almost a superb goal. But yeah, neither of them did it for me. Grealish was just brilliant again, and there's the debate about having to try and fit in Mount, Grealish and Foden. I personally am not sure you can play all 3 of those players at the same time, but Grealish has definitely used the last 2 games, especially with the other 2 being unavailable, to almost make himself undroppable. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Gareth Southgate reacts, because he's, to be honest, favoured the other 2.
I agree, he's got to start, hasn't he? He's been brilliant in both games. There was a point when I was watching it yesterday, I was just literally, just give him the ball. Just give him the ball. He's the only player who's got any real quality, can do something slightly different. Even in the first half, there was a point where he just picked up the tempo of the entire game, and no one else can do that. And it just brought everyone up, and I just love him. I think he's brilliant. Obviously, he gets taken out every 5 minutes, which I completely understand, but he's got to start 100%.
What did you make of Southgate starting 3 players not in the squad at the time, using it almost as another audition when it's supposedly the last warm-up game?
It was that word audition, wasn't it? It was a Godfrey, Ben White, kind of elimination game, really, wasn't it? And yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. Let's get the first team players in. Let's try and look more like we will do on Sunday.
Well, speaking of potential first team players, return for Jordan Henderson in the second half. We'll talk about the penalty in a second, but his overall performance I thought was all right. However, that doesn't put him straight into the lineup against Croatia. But it showed that, to be able to get through 45 minutes of football unscathed and to play relatively well, I felt. The link-up play between him and Bellingham in the second half, I thought was good, and it was a good sign. But good for England to have a player like him available, whether that's from the start or from the bench.
Yeah, agreed. It was good to see him get minutes, because obviously he missed the first game when everyone was thinking, oh, maybe he should have come on, been involved in some form. Obviously, Roy Keane absolutely slated him before the game.
Really?
I was pleased to see him come on and play all right, actually, bar the miss. But he won't start on Sunday. I can't see it. But later down the line, he will be involved.
I thought Bellingham played well again, which we'll talk about more later on in the week. But talk about the penalty. Calvert-Lewin should have taken it. Henderson pulls rank, 57th cap, I think it was. No goals for England. I completely understood why you do that, although I would have preferred if England were 2-0 up, not just 1-0 up. 1-0 is still hanging on a knife edge. It was a poor penalty. And after the one he missed in the World Cup in the shootout against Colombia, that's enough for me to say, right, mate, you're off. No more penalties from you.
It was literally exactly the same as the one against Colombia, wasn't it? I knew he was going to miss.
He went the other way.
I knew he was going to miss, though. It doesn't matter. He was always going to miss. And it doesn't bode well. But I can see him taking a penalty in a shootout later down the line. He'll probably score. And this will all be forgotten.
At least he's got the bottle to step up. But he's not very good at taking. We got much better penalty takers. He wouldn't be in my 5 just based on his recent track record, but
especially with the first one, the keeper literally standing with his arms behind his back, you think you've got to score, surely.
He'll never ever take a pen. He'll never score for England. Sorry, he'll never score for England.
No, he won't. I agree. He won't score.
Right. Let's move on to Trent Alexander-Arnold's replacement. It was announced this morning that Ben White's taken his place. Of course, on social media, there has been a mixed response to that, because a lot of people think James Ward-Prowse should be taken. A lot of people think Jesse Lingard should have been taken. Some people think Ben Godfrey should have been taken, but if you ask me, the last 2 games proved that he's probably not there yet. James Ward-Prowse is an interesting discussion because I thought it was brilliant. However, he's not going to start in that midfield, whereas at the back, whether we play a 3 or a 4, we've only got 4 centre-backs. Mings looks dodgy as anything. Cody, I thought, looked relatively dodgy in the first warm-up game as well. Whereas I felt Ben White was really composed. And if I'm going to be completely honest, if Maguire's not fit, it's probably the man I'm starting.
Yeah, obviously, once it broke this morning, the backlash on sort of Twitter and social media was, pretty harsh. I know, obviously, Ward-Prowse had a good game yesterday, but set pieces don't get you into a squad in my eyes. And I feel Ben White's versatility has helped him massively, because he can play midfield, he can play in a back 3, back 2, and he's a very good footballer at the end of the day. And I think he thoroughly deserves it out of the 4 you've mentioned. And I hope when he is called upon, because he probably will be, he has a good game.
I think it was the right choice. I think it was the right option. I mean, you've got people like Gabby Bonhor on TalkSport calling for Ollie Watkins because it's Aston Villa, but that you could rule him out. That was not a position that needed any more men. As much as you can say we've got 2 centre forwards, you've got Rashford there, Foden's played the false 9, Sterling's played the false 9. There's 5 players straight away who could potentially play that position. If a complete disaster happened, at the back is where we're dodgy, and it had to be a centre half. As soon as he went down in that first game, having watched Cody and Mings play together, you knew it had to be Godfrey or White, and it just so happened that White was the one who showed more composure and earned his place.
Yeah, agreed. I think the friendlies have shown we are very, very much a bit of a liability at the back at the moment. And obviously, Stones coming back in is brilliant, but who plays next to him? It's a big ask and it's a big call for Sunday. But Ben White's given himself a really good chance of being involved in that. And hopefully he has a blinder when he gets picked.
We'll talk about it later on in the week. I think we'll film on Friday. We will come at you with our starting lineup. We will give you a score prediction and probably have a look at some of Croatia's key players as well. That was Pub Foot with Miles and Jimmy. Thank you for watching or listening. If you're one of those people who just sort of puts YouTube on in the background and listens while you do your housework, there's only one thing left to say, and that's cheers.
Cheers.